Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey, the CEO of Treasury Webinars. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar today, Getting Paid, the Technology and Collaboration Skills Your AR Team Need. Happy to have with me for the Q&A part of our webinar today, Livni. He's the VP of Products from Gaviti, so we will hear from him later. First and foremost, I would like to welcome my new thought leadership partner, Gaviti, as a sponsor. I can already tell they share my commitment to thought leadership, but more importantly, share my commitment to making the folks that use their software deliver more value at their organizations. A few housekeeping items before we get started today. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation or would like a certificate of attendance for today's webinars, please send an email to Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. Again, that's Ernie@treasurywebinars.com. We would welcome your questions throughout the webinar. Again, we have an amazing expert from Gaviti to help me answer those questions at the end of the webinar. So please enter those at any time in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel. If you'd like a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, you'll have to stay on for the remainder of the webinar and also answer all of our polling questions. We appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all of our polling questions, as it helps us deliver better insights based on those polling results. Let's go ahead and get into our agenda. So we're going to start things off with the AR lay of the land, some survey results, and then we'll talk about the dimensions of AR-related communications. And just like myself, Gaviti is really focused on communications and collaborations, and how do we facilitate collaboration internally across AR and collaboration with our customers to build those relationships so we can take more control of the timing of those payments, reduce the friction folks are experiencing, and help us all get paid. And then we'll dive in, focus on customer communications from collections. We'll really dive in on the collection side and some very compelling software solutions out there that help us really tailor these collections with purpose and value. And so we're not just following a static, dunning email session. We're not controlling the message, the timing, and really we have a purpose. And so I always get on my platform and say each communication with a customer should have a purpose, so should be classified, and you should be tracking those, and you really need a solution to do that. And then we'll wrap things up with some specific recommendations for AR success. So we'll take some of the learnings there and give you some specific recommendations that you can start to use right away at your company. If you're not directly involved in AR, maybe you're a treasury professional, I always would hope to see that AR reports up through Treasury, or at least you have influence over that. So what you'll see is the importance of supporting the AR team and how AR can collaborate with Treasury in order to help us, in one way, improve our collections forecasting, which helps us with our working capital management on many fronts, specifically, borrowing only when we need to borrow, optimizing our short-term investments, but also mitigating our risk as well related to currency risk, but also those counterparty risks that we have as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. AR, lay of the land. I've been doing a lot of research in AR the past few years. And so just want to set the stage, What are the responsibilities at AR? Is it becoming a more strategic role? We see a lot of that, out in the surveys and news. So we looked at AR responsibilities. We asked folks 2023 versus 2022. I think pretty exciting. 59% say they expected the role, this year to increase significantly or increase slightly. And then I just am finishing up some research that I'll share a little later this year that shows that trend is going to continue. So the responsibilities at AR are on the rise. The expectations are on the rise. And so as anyone across the office of the CFO, we need to empower our AR team to deliver on these new responsibilities and deliver on these expectations. And part of that is removing inherent barriers to success. And what I've seen in a lot of recent survey that I've done, there's a lot of inherent barriers just related internally to AR silos. So I'll get into that a little bit. But also for me, the communication between our AR team, whether that's wherever that flies, collections, credit with our customers, there's some asymmetries of information there, inefficiencies going on there. Last thing we want to do is make it difficult for our customers to pay. So interesting there. Also see the strategic role of AR over the last 12 to 24 months has been increasing. Makes sense. But I want to comment on that. So we saw COVID. When COVID, it really started to take place. Now we're going on 2 to 3 years ago. There should have been more focus on AR, right? And so I think that's helped drive the technology adoption in the AR space. What I had really seen was AP was really a lot further along in terms of the technology and adoption. So AR is, I think, still catching up a little bit on that front, but there's a lot of amazing solutions out there. But the good news is responsibilities are going up, strategic role is going up. So we asked folks, what's the role of the AR department? So optimally, right, we want to make AR deliver value, right, be a key strategic advisor, and that's all business matters, not just AR. Occasional advisor, maybe a supplier of data that supports decisions, but really aren't involved in the influence. But then 16% is really that transactional role. So we see kind of a bell. So we can look at this in a positive way or take it in a negative angle, but I like to look at it in a positive manner. So what we see as we're hoping the number is zero, but only 16% companies surveyed. There were over 260 companies surveyed across different industries and company sizes. Only 16% are really kind of locked out of that opportunity to really deliver strategic value. And so if a company is supplying data or advising only in certain areas, there's an opportunity there to really earn that seat by doing a better job in communicating, right, what they're doing, the value that they're bringing, doing even better. So they're supplying the data. Once we supply the analysis, how about some predictive analytics on there? AR departments are definitely, from what I've seen in my research, is they are poised to take on that strategic role. The good news is we saw the responsibilities are going in the right direction, right? So they're getting that seat at the table, so they have to be ready to do that. Also took a look at this in terms of company size. With the way I look at it, by its number of employees, small is less than 100 employees, mid-market goes from 100 to 999, and enterprise is really over 1,000 employees. So a lot of information there just to show you the type of analysis that we're done. Where you stand depends on where you sit. So sometimes it's interesting. Okay, I'm a small company. This is really more relevant to me. Just interesting to me. So what I've seen in the fintech technology is the mid-market companies have actually had a higher adoption curve there. So I'm not surprised. But you look at, they have the smallest percentage where companies are viewed as purely transactional. So that 13%. So I believe that is driven by the technology adoption, and that's good news. They're adopting it and they're leveraging that technology as well. And what you'll see, a little surprising, just if you look at it, what you think enterprise, you see a little bit more, 19%, almost 20%, which is purely transactional, which to me is a little surprising given what we've seen on COVID, right? Cash has been more important to get in the door. And so just some interesting insights there. Again, if you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please go ahead and send me an email. Happy to share that with you. Also, a lot of additional analysis here in this area that I've done with a few blogs with Gaviti. So please go ahead and check out their website. They have some good thought leadership resources there. I'm going to go ahead and launch our first polling question here, kind of tee up our next vein of conversation. Just asking you to share with us which of the following has the largest negative impact on AR success at your company. Is it internal silos within your team, lack of alignment between AR and sales? I've seen a lot of misalignment there, causing some issues. There's some pretty startling research out there that shows how many orders that are being processed fall out of outside a company's credit policy and or their terms. Is it lack of visibility across the OTC process or interactions with your customers, Or is it just you see there's probably just a lack of the right technology? Maybe you haven't invested in an AR automation solution just yet. Want to remind you, we can take your questions at any time in the questions area of your GoToWebinar control panel. Again, we have a great opportunity. We have an amazing expert on the line with us, so please take advantage of that opportunity. If we don't get to your questions, fear not, we will follow up with you after the webinar is over. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and close the poll, give you another couple seconds. Again, if you want a certificate of attendance, please make sure you click that button. Everyone, please go ahead and click the button. Just takes a second. All right, let's go ahead, close that. Let's go ahead and take a quick peek there, what we've seen. I'm a little surprised, but it's a good, I mean, I'm not 33%, right? AR in the sales team. So that's incredibly important. And what I will say is all of these, obviously you can say with the right technology, we can really start to address these issues. Part of it is the culture as well. And so again, we'll take a look at how this aligns with what we've seen in our research as well. Again, I ask is the largest. What I have seen is there's probably 80 or more percent of companies identify that they have silos in their AR teams. This is research over the last 3 years. There's the lack of alignment between AR and sales has a negative impact on success. And then the two together, right, the lack of visibility really gives us 30%. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. And so one of the things that I asked respondents was, how does that impact your performance? Get to it. Does it empower your performance? Does it not impact, or does it hinder? Only 62% of companies say it empowers performance. It's kind of interesting to benchmark that, but also in a sense, this is something where we'll talk about this. You need to start making the business case. If you feel that AR performance is not the technology is not empowering performance, that is a huge inherent barrier to success. And then we also took a look at this by a company size as well. So again, more on the back end if you want a copy of the slides. But again, these are some of the challenges that companies are facing. We have increasing expectations. We have a seat at the table. Okay, do we have the technology, people, right, and process to meet those needs? So pretty important. And then we also ask folks to share the technology objective. And so just as you're thinking, if you haven't yet invested in an AR automation solution, kind of the business case, right? We ask folks to share, and hopefully you'll start to see that business case being made for yourself. And even if you have an existing solution, you want to be asking yourself, is this solution really what we need? Are we getting what was promised? Are we getting the customer success support that we need? So you should never be satisfied. You should be in an environment of continuous improvement. So we had, they could choose more than one. So you see there's a lot. Improve the systems to support growth, right? We have visibility and automation and increased security. So as you're thinking about that business case, right, your technology, if you're going to invest, should be better and position you, should replace your legacy systems, should support growth, right? So it should be facilitating visibility and removing manual process. So these are the components of the business case as you start to look at that. And companies of all sizes are seeing tremendous benefits to investing in AR technology. So we asked folks to share what's the biggest negative impact on AR success, which we shared with you as well. So you're pretty close, right? You guys, lack of strategic alignment between AR and sales was 33%. Our survey was 30%. That survey I've just completed, which I haven't shared yet, is pretty close. But we see here, right, visibility, right? Visibility into customer interactions. Now, of course, going along with that means if you don't have visibility, right, they're not going to be efficient. And then visibility into the processes as well, right? I would say you can't manage what you can't see. And I think a lot of the lack of strategic alignment between AR and sales is that they are not expected to collaborate. But both sides don't have visibility into all communications with the customers. And so that's a whole nother webinar, and some of the content that I've worked on with Gaviti on their website. Take a look at that. And then we want to do a little staff dynamics just to kind of show, we have people out there saying AI is going to replace every job in office of CFO. What I've seen here and what I've seen in all my surveys the past 3 years, it's definitely not the case. We're actually seeing staff being added. So it's more about leveraging technology to become more efficient, to give folks more time to add strategic value, invest in customer relationships, about investing in those communications with our customers, and specifically empowering our collections team to be efficient in getting us paid and doing so without creating friction with our customers. So we see, all right, we also have seen investing in technology. So the landscape there is we have challenges, but we're getting staff, we're getting technology. What about the skills that folks find important in delivering AR success? We have data management, data analytics, AR automation solutions. So that's all good, not surprising. What I like to see is oral communication skills, written communication skills, business partnering. And so those are kind of both sides of it. And what I've also worked on with Gaviti is we've done a blog on how to build your AR dream team. So I think that's very interesting, where we talk about how to facilitate that collaboration, what's the environment, what the skills are. And so for your team, what I advise is, okay, what are my goals? How am I measured for success? Do it in depth. What skills does my team have, right? What skills does my team need? And then how do we fill those? Do we train people up? Do we hire people, right? Or do we give them professional development opportunities, which leads us to our next slide. And so what we've seen is that professional development opportunities are actually increasing for AR teams. So if you're in AR and you're not getting these opportunities, you should have higher expectations. Companies of all sizes are investing. For me, you have more expectations of us, right? You expect us to deliver more value. Our metrics are tighter. And we also need metrics for not only macro, but for our individual team members as well. We need the resources to do that. So they're like, okay, what do you need and why? Okay, in order to know what you need, you have to be able to say, this is where I'm at in terms of people, process, and technology. This is what I need to meet and exceed your expectations. And now this is how we want to invest, right, in people and technology and improve processes to get there. So let's talk about some of the dimensions. Let's dive into AR communications. Those of you that aren't in AR, I think you'll find this incredibly enlightening. So until I really started diving in probably 5 years ago, I'm a treasury person. It was really fascinating to me to really get in the weeds again and really understand all the dimensions of success for just communication. Again, if you've never done this, communication can be a huge inherent barrier to AR success. So we got internal communications, right, in the team. We got credit, collections, deductions, cash apps. We got communication with sales, treasury, and our customers. So there's a lot of dimensions there. So just to kind of help us set the stage, just to kind of ask you, right? I want to get into a little bit. See if you have any internal silos between AR. Don't worry, I won't tell on you. Please be honest. Just asking which of those has the biggest negative impact. So it exists. You see, if we could get better alignment between these two areas of our AR team, regardless of what the cause might be, this is where we could have the biggest impact, or where we could move the biggest inherent barriers to success. So again, we can take your questions in the GoToWebinar control panel. If you'd like a copy of today's presentation, please send an email to Ernie at treasurywebinars.com. And I appreciate everyone's consideration in answering all the polling questions. If you want a certificate of attendance, you're going to have to go ahead and answer all those polling questions. I'm going to give everyone just about maybe 5 or 10 more seconds. Then we're going to go ahead and take a quick peek at those results, and then I'll level set those by what I've been seeing in my research, and then we'll dive in more to the internal communications piece. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys another couple seconds. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate that. Let's take a quick peek at those results. So we see credits and collections is the most, and then we have pretty close between credit collections and disputes and collections and cash app. For me, I'm a treasury treasury guy, even though I love AR, so collections and cash out. So I think that's a place where treasury needs to be more proactive there. But just, the credit and collections team. So, where you stand depends on where you're at, right? Where you stand depends on where you sit. So this aligns pretty well with, with what I've seen. Maybe a little bit less in credit and collections, a little bit more in collections and deductions as well. But again, I think just looking at what we see, we see that there are silos. So you need to be look in the mirror. Do we have these silos at our company? If so, how do we help, right, mitigate those silos? Sometimes it's just the environment of collaboration. In surveys I've asked, just AR in sales, like why do AR and sales not collaborate? And an answer, which is way too prevalent, is we have no incentive to do so. So that's something that companies would do well to take a look at as well. So in terms of internal communications, what I'll see, some comments and inferences that I'll say, if they exist, they need to be mitigated. Blind spots, right? Those create problems, right? So I'd want to remove all blind spots in the OTC process to all interactions with customers. So that's what creates silos. Silos create inefficiencies. They cause internal friction. They lead to staff turnover. They fuel negative issues with customers, and they negatively impact the bottom line. I'd say effective. So the first part of collaboration is communication. And to me, a piece of communication is both sides being informed, equally informed on the conversation. It also helps mitigate potential issues and having that visibility. So you're looking at the same information, right? And you can look at patterns, and you can really cut off potential issues at the past. And then collaboration across AR teams, it needs to be expected, and I believe it needs to be managed as well. And then our communication with sales, we saw that was the biggest pain point here for those of you on the webinar today. And I think sometimes there's not a cognizant understanding of AR and sales teams. All the interactions with customers impact customer relationship. So when I was in treasury, we were involved in managing credit. And what would happen is the sales guys were always trying to be the hero with the customers, and they blame finance and treasury and the AR team for all the issues that they have. And that's obviously not productive. And so for sales teams, if they're going to close deals outside of the terms and conditions, it would be nice to let the AR team know. So the AR team is not calling customers and making them mad because they had an agreement with the sales guy. And from AR, if there's a customer that's paying late or having issues, reach out to the sales team and say, take the temperature. Is there a reason that we see this? In sales, as much as you might not think it's a good idea, should be involved. What's the tone of communication with this customer? What is it that works? Because a lot of times sales guys have personal relationships, so we should use that information as well. I talk about this a lot. I've already talked about it. Blind spots create problems. Again, I talked about this. Sometimes sales teams' actions don't align with their sales policy. Excuse me. And then sales might not have incentives to close deals that align with the company's sales policy. So that misalignment, as I mentioned, can cause issues with the customer, detrimental to the bottom line, detrimental to your risk management, detrimental to your working capital management. And so there is a lot of benefit to aligning those communications. And if there's going to be misalignment, let's just define, what that is or mitigate that and make sure we're all on the same page as much as possible. And then communication with treasury is incredibly important. And so we need to think about it. Receipts forecasts impact cash management decisions. So if there's a receipts forecast, hopefully treasury is at least working with AR to do that. The better our receipts forecast, the more efficient we can be in managing cash and working capital, and that impacts the bottom line. Inaccurate receipts, here's your business case, here's the damage. Borrowing that doesn't need to happen, investment decisions that are less than optimal, and actions in managing financial risk that are detrimental to the company. So if you want to create that alignment, understanding the drivers of forecasting errors that helps improve for receipts forecasting. So there needs to be collaboration in that. and effective communication, right, leads to collaboration, and that improves working capital management, which can have a big impact on the bottom line. And then communication with customers is where we will get to, and we will get really focused there. But the blind spots, interactions with customers create silos. So again, communications with customers are important. To me, there needs to be a reason for each communication that needs to be classified. We need to look at whether the actions are being met, and we need to manage the number of communications going to each customer. So I'm going to go ahead and share the next polling question with you just to kind of go alongside with that. Just curious, is each communication from an AR team member at your company classified with a reason code? Maybe it's yes, all customers, yes, but only with certain customers, or no. And so for me, this is a really important step in that process, optimizing those and building those relationships, optimizing those actions. For me, I'm being on both sides of it. To me, there's nothing more annoying than getting all these emails. Why aren't you paying? Why aren't you paying? Why aren't you paying? Especially if I've already communicated with someone and we worked something out, we worked on the sales terms. So it's clear to me that there has been no communication and collaboration between AR and sales. You're creating enough friction with me as a customer. Guess what? I'm not going to do business with you anymore. And I don't have a zillion customers, but I was always taught, and I believe every customer is important. So you want to get paid by every customer. You don't want to chase, which would never get paid. But there's no reason to continually send negative tone emails to a customer, because you never know what's going to happen. They might get bought up. They might do an acquisition. They could become important, your company reputation, social media. So I think AR folks need to be cognizant of the impacts they can have. All right, let's go ahead and close that. We'll give you a share quick. Good to see 25% of you. Yes, all customers, 19% with certain customers. There can be obviously some logic behind that given your staff restraints, but technology can facilitate, especially in your automation solution, can facilitate where that becomes less burdensome and is absolutely something that you can do and add value and automate it. And then no, I would just pose the question, why not? What is it, what would the value be, right, in doing that? And I think that is self-evident just from issues and creating a culture of accountability. You should have accountability for the interactions that you're having with your customers. How does a company make money, right? Your customers. We want to reduce the friction with our customers. We want to have relationships with our customer, right? Even this AR can have positive relationships with your customers. So that needs to be something that's documented. So here's the actual slide, which I was wanting to talk through before. My apologies, I didn't move forward. Each communication matters. The reason code, the type, the frequency. Communication should be classified with the reason code. Each communication should have a desired outcome. The number of communications to achieve any outcomes will be limited, and visibility. So these are my recommendations here on communications with customers. These are best practices. So let's go ahead and let's go ahead and dive in here. So let's really focus here on AR communications from collections. And so I like to call this part getting paid without damaging relationships. We're going to show you some best practices. We're going to go ahead and share with you a few minor screenshots here to just show you what that looks like from a leading software provider, my friends at Gaviti. So just an overview of it really shows exactly how it works and the power that is there. And you'll immediately see, if you're in AR and you're in collections, you'll immediately just say, wow, this is something that can change your life and offer more value and really have a tremendous bottom line impact for your customers. And so we still see common practice on communicating with customers on collections. We see what we refer to as dunning emails, well-noted, well-documented strategy. If you want more about dunning emails, please go ahead and send me an email. We're also going to be doing a blog on dunning emails with Gaviti, so please stay tuned for that as well. So the pro side, including your ERP, it allows for basic personalization, and there is some simple automation that can happen. But the cons are it's email only, it's often not intuitive, it requires IT setup. There's often, as far as I know, no internal notifications, and there's not a lot of flexibility. So we want to put, both sides of the value there, and we'll talk about best practices and ways that you can do better. But at the end of the day, just a game-changing way to improve efficiency is to have some AR automation related to communications. And so just to dive in a little bit more on those emails, if you haven't been really involved in that, it's really a pretty complex processes. You have queries, you have clarification emails, you have reminders, you can have multiple email correspondence, and it almost always often requires IT support and setup. So IT resources are limited. So when something goes wrong, or if you want to change something, or if something's not working, that requires a problem. And just dovetail on that, on the reporting side, there's really nothing in there, right, in the ERP system that's going to help you on the reporting side. Okay, so these are the emails that we've sent, right? This is the efficiency of them. These are the reason codes. So we'll get into that a lot later. But it's really, to me, that's part of the inflexibility of it. So here are some best practices. With not saying you shouldn't do dunning emails, I'm saying you can leverage dunning emails. You could do that through an automated environment. Best practices, emails are sent from a real person, right? You should enable replies to those emails. You can add a sense of urgency, include a call to action and next step, and then offer some alternative payment options. The depersonalization is incredibly important. We want to give someone a way to reply and really give the reason for the email, the urgency. And the last part I think is the most important. What are the options? I mean, to me, part of it is if you could at least let us know what delay of payment is, what the timing of the payment is. And so from a forecasting perspective, I would rather know that it's going to be late, right, by 60 days than assuming it's going to come in, right, in 30 days, or assuming it's not going to come in at all. So that even those insights, and then we can start to put probabilities around when those payments will be made, it will improve our receipts forecast, which helps us optimize our working capital optimization. So just some potential negative outcomes of dunning emails. Again, I think we touched on these: lack of control, lack of visibility, right, on the impact, especially. Sometimes it causes issues with the prioritization, and I think it causes a lot of friction. And then I think sometimes you can have a fail to reach all your customers, again, with that limited bandwidth. So those are all potential things. Again, I'll share the slide with you. Inaccurate forecasting, it doesn't really allow you to proactively manage your relationships. You really can't execute a predictable strategy. Again, you can't scale multiple efforts, and it can lead to lower cash flow, overdue invoices, and more delinquent customers. So those are all things to keep in mind. But there is what we say a better way. It can turn the right platform can turn dunning into a progressive process where it actually impacts your cash flow, which is pretty exciting. So we just have, some nice features here. Some of the issues that we see, we mentioned with ERP dunning emails versus an automated system. Automated system can be purpose-built or flexible. We can have integration. We can facilitate the use of non-finance, utilizes data or insights. That's incredibly important. It's not limited to emails, and there are tools that are supported so we can leverage other technology and data from other systems. And so just putting it in another way, here's that business case. It accelerates cash flow and maximizes profitability. There's your business case, right there. It maximizes productivity. All of those involved in the collection process. How much time are they spending on calls in the system with IT before the solution, right? How much time are they spending after? What is the time difference? How much are those people paid? boom, maximize productivity. Also allows them to spend more time on strategic activity. What impact does that have on their collection success rate, right? And then accelerates cash flow. What are the impacts there that we're seeing and getting more money in the door, and also the timing of money getting in the door? What's the time value of money to our organization? So getting money in, 5 or 10 days faster because we have a better message, it can really move the needle for folks given your cash needs and your cash movement. So this is really a good way to look at some of the start to look at, does this make sense for me? Do we see these issues, right? Would we have a positive impact if we could reach our customers, preemptively escalate, right? Reduce that friction, right? And all these things control our outcomes. And we want to monitor execution, right? And so you just let things go and go and go, and nobody knows what's going on, how long is it taking, what is it doing. There's a lot. I mean, I do email marketing a lot, so you don't even know. The ERP can't tell you if the emails got delivered, if they got open, if they got read. All those things are incredibly important to your strategy, and those are completely lost just by leveraging your ERP system. So just to, again, get into some more best practices on a real high level. You want to automate, right? We'll dive in these a little bit. You want to automate, segment, centralize, communicate, obviously streamline and execute. So those are the best practices. Of course, we have a tool we want to automate, but we need to make sure that we are leveraging automation in the right way, the right process behind it in order to realize the value. So best practices, we talked about this. You want a personalized, purpose-built tool. That's what I said. It should have an action. It should have a desired result. You don't want to use a generic template for every single customer in every single instance at every step. If you have that escalation process after an email sent, action, inaction, right? What does that decision tree look like? You don't want to have a generic template. Not all customers are the same. There could be personal relationships, right? That between sales and your customers that can help with that as well. You want to reach out to people in the most efficient way at the right time, and that can be potentially via text, via email, and then it can be maybe via phone call. It gets to a point, the dunning process for this guy, it stops here. Boom, there needs to be a note that goes to sales guy, I think you should call, and maybe there's a call. Okay, then maybe they go back into the process, and so you have to have flexibility in that workflow. So just to give you, a few screenshots to take a look at some of the power of that automation, what it looks like. To me, just really interesting. Obviously, you can customize those, but here are some important things, right? Engagements, right? What is it, right? We've sent these to these customers. You can click in there, see what they are. What are these notes? This facilitates collaboration, internal collaboration with the system. How wouldn't that be cool? We can send notes to our sales guys. We can communicate. Maybe our manager's looking in there. Hey, why did you send emails to John's company? What is going on with John's company? So the ability to collaborate here, and then also the ability to see how we are improving our payment forecasting here, right? Pay, promise to pay, projective, so we can see how our actions are informing our better payment forecasting, and then we can just get a look on a more macro level. Who are our delinquent customers? You can look at the trends. You can start to look at, okay, who's managing this company, maybe on different levels, and sales guy. What are some trends? You can look into all activity with those customers, so pretty powerful there. And then you can have an efficient workflow, right? So you can personalize this, right? Wouldn't it be nice to know the exact ID, invoice balance, and some folks, they may even have a link, right? If you have that if you maybe have some kind of portal. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Right here it is. Quick response. There's the invoice. Here's what I want. This is what I want. You might say, do we have an issue, right? Send an email due, right? After 7 days, send a customer email, right? Send a specific email. Keep that personalization in there. Keep that purpose in there. So, and it can be as specific as, if you can integrate the data the right way. Okay, the customer opened an email. Okay, did they read it? Did they click on the link? So the actions or inactions taken by the customer can help with that workflow and inform a much better action, which will get you to the outcome is getting paid, right? And then the workflow, right? So we have the template, so we can start to see a specific person, so we can start to see, what they have done, what's going on with them. You can really look at their, so we need to have metrics for our individuals so we can see activity, so we can see, right, these percentages here. So incredibly cool to look at your workflow. You can look at your bottlenecks as well. So a really good way to monitor and manage that individual performance, which obviously rolls up to that team performance, which is going to impact your bottom line. And then we can have just some internal escalations, right? We can immediately see something's going on. We need to involve somebody else. We can give them the details of what's going on. We can probably show them the conversation. So this is what I didn't like. There's an issue going on. Treasury, here, take care of this. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on, right? I don't know the background. I don't know the sensitivity. I don't know, what is it that you would like me to do to value add? What is the desired outcome that we want to have? And then involve them, make sure they're notified. So that's incredibly efficient as well to streamline that. When realize we need to get somebody else involved, which will create the outcome you want. Don't just keep sending them, because what you'll find is that's not going to move the needle. It's going to cause friction, and that friction eventually can damage the bottom line. So we can have also some really interesting task prioritization. You can see what's going on, what's being done, what needs to be worked on, action. So much more detail. You can take a look. If you want more information, we'll give the opportunity to contact my friends at Gaviti. They love to walk you through an email and customize it and show you how it can make your collections much improved. And then we have visibility. Again, we saw visibility is an incredible pain point, right, for all these companies that we're seeing. So, and we can see the filters, right? And let's see what's going on. Well, I want to look at Daniel and Elliot and see what's going on with them. So let's see what's going on here. They send an email, right? What happened? What's the flow here? And then you can see, and then this can also help you also, if someone manages a specific client, maybe you see, are they doing a good job? Do we want to align them with somebody else? So visibility into those actions allows us to manage them to metrics of success. Again, we really need individual metrics of success. And then again, visibility, can't manage what you can't see. Unifying the invoicing and the activity on the communication side, and really having access to that, all that information, right? Here it is. This is what I was talking about. Love it. Delivered, bounce, open. This is what we need, right? We need to be able to pull that information in to that workflow to see, okay, we did this action. Did it work? Did it not work? Where do we go in our workflow? Is that workflow efficient? And then it facilitates internal collaboration right within the system. So, you're keeping everybody in the loop, all the sales guys, all the people in the AR team that work with a client. Maybe it's a huge issue. Maybe you want to copy your CFO. Maybe you want to copy your treasurer. So it's not a CYA. It's everyone's informed. So eventually, if it gets up to the CFO, you get mad. Hey, well, you were copied on this. So, we were trying to be proactive here. And then he already knows what you tried to do about it. So it's incredibly powerful there. It also empowers what we call customer facing self-service. And so the customers can log in, do various actions. So AR success on your side translate to AP success on their side. So having that information and communication with someone who is going to be able to resolve any issues that you have, and you can be looking at the same information, and it allows your customer to ask, right? I need more invoices. I want, what's the history? So there's not an excuse. Well, I don't have this. I don't have that. Oh, you're in the system. Let's book it in the system. Do a screen share. Bam. So we're there. So hopefully you can see the incredible power in there. I want to remind you, as I share some recommendations for you. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and turn to our Q&A before I wrap things up with our recommendations. So I want to remind everyone, we are able to take your questions still in the GoToWebinar questions control panel area. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start prioritizing these questions. And then I am going to go ahead and welcome Roa to the webinar. So he's going to help us with our questions. So let me go ahead and tee you up with our first question. Just to let you know, I think you're on self-mute, so make sure that we knock that off as I ask you the first question. So first question that we have is, just dive a little bit deeper, into what's the difference between the dunning automation and, using the ERP and the automation strategy. So Ra, maybe you can share with us, what are 2 or 3 things that someone can take away from that specific instance, if you're able to join us and address that question. All right, go ahead, Ra. All right, Ra, let me go ahead and ask one more time. So,
Ernie,
go ahead.
Cool. So with regards to, first of all, thank you very much for the introduction. So with regards to the first question, most of the dunning functionalities currently available with different ERPs are usually static. They are not adjustable, and they lack few issues that, for example, we in Gaviti provide, such as you could choose different language per customer. You could use your own voice and tone. You could set it up for different time zones. You could also split customers by tiers. So you would address tier 1 customers of yours differently than tier 2 customers. You also have the option to use the collector's email, so it would be more personal in that way, and basically remove the blindness out of the regular static kind of dunning emails.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so just to kind of level set on a few other things that I picked up on, things I didn't discuss on the personalization side, a couple of things that you mentioned besides the personalization, relevant to the time zone, right, which is incredibly important. So when you send the communication, right, as opposed to why you send the communication. And then on the personalization side, as I mentioned before, you're able to pull in some insights from your sales team, maybe get their insights, and they can help on a template for a specific customer as well, and you can actively manage the workflow. I think that's incredibly important, and you can have really a lot of different customized workflows that help you optimize the value. So thank you. Next question, pretty general, what we've seen. So folks are mentioning that they struggle to get an IT team on board with implementing new products. So if someone looks at some like an AR automation solution such as Gaviti, what do you see as the involvement in IT? Is it a lot, not as much as you see? So what are your thoughts on that?
So it really varies between the different companies' profile. What we did on our end is we developed a connector that basically enables using Gaviti without any IT involvement. So we can plug into any data source without IT involvement, unless this is something that our customers really require, such as integration, connection with ERP systems, CRMs, etc. But this is really an easy way to connect and for us to receive the data, which in the end facilitates in faster onboarding and that's also faster outcomes.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So I guess I didn't make the point. It's not that your ERP system can't offer value, and it's not that you don't want you to use information from your ERP system, because you absolutely do, because that can help inform decisions. But as you mentioned, right, there are connectors that make the transfer of that data much easier. So in the past, you would have to have tremendous involvement from IT to have specific formats and spend hours and hours, right, on just getting the data passed back and forth between the systems. But there's connectors that have already been developed with some certain ERP systems, and something that you guys have invested in, which makes it a lot easier. So that's incredibly important. What I have found in my conversations with hundreds of finance professionals is what actually happens is once they implement a fintech solution, the amount of IT involvement actually goes down. So that's actually gets me to my next question. So as far as the ROI of investing in a solution, AR automation solution, one of those which people need to look at is the IT time, right, that they have. So are there any other components of the value proposition that you'd like to share with folks as they're trying to look at? I think this is really important. How do we build that business case on my end?
Yeah, so I could suggest also to take a look at the user experience of the different platforms, and this is something that
Mhm.
we heavily invested in order to get the team educated faster and easier in a more kind of intuitive way. So this would be also factor to get your team up and running really quickly again to drive results. And the second thing that I would strongly and usually recommend is to start with few customers, get yourself started. You'll see that you are reducing significant effort from your team, and you could take that spare time that you have to continue working and adjusting more of the policy towards different customers, other than trying to do everything at once. So you reduce the load significantly, you're starting with few customers, and then you continue with the rest as you have more capacity.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. So you just kind of pull that with some of the other things that I mentioned earlier. So, what you really want to look at is you got to have your processes, right, and look at how much it costs to do, AR collections. What is it? This is where we're at. And then you look at, okay, these are the efficiency gains that we would get in terms of time spent, right? How much money do they make? Multiply that up. But also, what are these actions doing? How is it improving your ability to get money in, and the probability of that as well. So you can put some hard dollar costs on there. And to me, a lot of it becomes self-evident when you get folks to look at what they're doing, right, and ask themselves, why are we doing this? Why aren't we doing this? And certainly things that I see as an email marketing person is, if we don't have we need to have a way to see whether our email marketing is successful, right? What are the actions and what are the flows? So I think the business case is there. I know Gaviti would be happy to have a conversation with folks if you have any more specific question. One more question before I wrap things up. One of the things I didn't really touch on enough was the payment forecasting accuracy. So have you found that your clients are seeing a big improvement in that payments forecasting? And does the credit scores figure into how you come up with the forecast at all in some way?
Yeah, so our forecasting functionality is AI powered and is based on past behavior of the customer. So the more data we have, the more accurate is the forecasting. And as company scales up and they have more and more customers, it becomes really difficult or sometimes even impossible to do an accurate forecasting. This is something that we are constantly improving, and we can say today that we have a very good forecasting model in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your insights. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our final polling question as I make some closing comments here. So for the specific recommendations for you to take away, I sincerely appreciate everyone's consideration in answering our final polling question. You need to do that in order to get a certificate of attendance, but also it is a courtesy to my strategic partner, Gaviti, because without them, I wouldn't be able to offer you webinars and amazing thought leadership content with no cost to you. So it's courtesy, I appreciate that. So for me, taking this at a high level, for the AR success, take a deep and honest dive into your process. You need to have a culture of continuous improvement. You need to create a culture, collaboration within your AR team, mitigate the misalignment between your AR and sales team, make sure interaction with a customer has a purpose, and invest in technology that delivers visibility across your order OTC process and interactions, and of course, specifically focus again on all your communications with your customers, right? Make sure they have a purpose, make sure they're personalized, make sure they're tracked, and get software. And as Rob mentioned, that it gives you, like, the AI is really powerful, allows the system to learn and really improve not only your relationship with customers, but your forecasting, getting paid, and have a really big impact on your bottom line. So I'm going to go ahead, close the polling question here. Just a few seconds. Please go ahead, everyone, and take the polling question for me. I appreciate that. All right. Thank you so much. So I would once again want to thank my webinar partner, Gaviti. Thrilled to have them as a new strategic partner. I encourage everyone to go to the Gaviti website and check out some thought leadership. Again, I have a few blogs up there already, and they have some other great thought leadership content as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. I sincerely appreciate it. Make the rest of your day great, everyone.